Hi, I'm Scott with Ascora Games, here to teach you how to play Nefarious, the new game for 2 to 6 players by Donald X. Vaccarino. In Nefarious, you and your opponents are mad scientists building fantastic and ingenious inventions, like a freeze ray or a time machine. The player that builds the most and most fantastic inventions will win the game. More specifically, you'll be building these invention cards, which have values between 1 and 8 victory points. The first player to build 20 or more points worth of inventions at the end of a round and have more points than any other player will win the game. When you open the box of Nefarious, this is what you'll find inside. 6 player boards, which we refer to as lairs in the game. 24 action cards in 6 different player colors. 96 bag of money coins in 3 different denominations, 1, 5, and 10. 36 twist cards. 30 wooden minions in 6 different player colors. And 64 invention cards. At the beginning of the game, each player receives a lair, 10 bags of money, which you'll put inside your vault, 5 minions, which you can put inside your vault or next to your board. This is your minion reserve. 3 random invention cards, and 4 action cards. Everyone receives the same 4 action cards. The only difference is the color of the backs. Also at the beginning of the game, we will draw 2 random twist cards and lay them face up on the table. I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit. In the first phase, all the players will simultaneously choose one of their action cards and lay them face down above their player boards. Then simultaneously, we'll reveal these cards. That's phase 1. In the second phase, our minions pay out. Now at the beginning of the game, no one will have any minions in their investment areas of their lairs, but it's possible that later on in the game, you might have 1 or more minions in these investment areas. Let's say it's later on in the game and I have 1 minion in my invent area and 2 minions in my work area. In this phase, you receive money from the supply for each of your minions that matches the actions chosen by your 2 immediate neighbors. You don't receive bags of money for the action cards that you play or the action cards played by your other opponents, only your 2 immediate neighbors. Let's say for this example, that later on in the game, my opponent on my right-hand side played invent and my opponent on my left-hand side played research. Because I have 1 minion in my invent area and my right-hand neighbor played invent, then I would receive 1 bag of money from the supply. If the neighbor on my left-hand side instead of research had played work, then in this instance I would receive 1 bag of money because of invent and 2 bags of money because I have 2 minions in work because my left-hand neighbor played the work action. So that would be a total of 3 bags of money from the supply. If, for this example, instead of invent my right-hand neighbor had played work, then I would receive 2 bags of money because of my right-hand neighbor and 2 more bags of money because of my left-hand neighbor, in this instance, for a total of 4 bags of money. In the third phase, we resolve the actions chosen by the players in the first phase. We resolve them in numbered order, 1, 2, 3, 4. First, all the players who chose speculate as their action take their turn. If you chose speculate as your action, it allows you to move 1 of your minions from your reserve into one of your investment areas, and you must pay the price to do so. To move a minion into the speculate area is free. To move a minion into your investment area costs 2 bags of money. To move a minion into your research investment area costs 1 bag of money, and it's also 1 bag of money to move a minion into the work area. You can only use speculate to move 1 minion, and you may not use the speculate action to move minions between your investment areas. Next, all the players who chose invent as their action take their turn simultaneously. If you played Invent as your action, it allows you to build one of the blueprints that you have in your hand. To build one of your blueprints and turn it into an invention, you simply lay it above your lair and then pay the corresponding cost, which is in the upper left-hand corner. In this case, if I built killer bees, I'd have to pay 8 bags of money to the supply. Now, when you build an invention, sometimes they have no effect, sometimes they have one effect, sometimes they have 2 effects. If an invention's effect has a green arrow, that means it affects the player who built the invention. If an effect has a red multiple arrow that points away, that means that effect does not affect the builder, it affects all of the other players. If there's a plus sign after the arrow, it means the recipient gains something. If there's a minus sign after the arrow, that means the recipient loses something. There are 3 things that you can gain or lose as the result of an effect. You can gain or lose blueprints from your hand. You can gain or lose bags of money, which you would either gain from or pay to the supply, or you can gain or lose minions. If you gain a minion, that means you can move one of your minions from your reserve into one of your investment areas without having to pay the price. If you lose a minion, that means you must move one of your minions from one of your investment areas back into your reserve. If an effect causes you to do something and you don't have enough to do it, you simply do what you can. For example, if an effect caused you to lose 4 bags of money and you only had 2, you would simply lose 2 bags of money. If you build an invention that has 2 effects that affect you, the builder of the card, you resolve them from top to bottom. For example, if you built the genetic manipulator, first you would discard a blueprint card from your hand, and then you would draw one from the draw pile. There are 2 special symbols in some of the effects. If you see this symbol, it means that you receive something per something. For example, if you built the X-ray specs, you would receive 1 bag of money per blueprint or invention card that you have in your hand. If you built the time viewer, you would receive 1 bag of money per minion that you have in your investment areas of your lair. When you see this symbol, it represents all of the inventions that you have built, including this invention that you just built that has this effect. For example, if you built the delicious byproducts, you would receive 1 bag of money per invention that you've already built. For example, if you've already built 2 other inventions and then you build delicious byproducts, you would receive 3 bags of money. One more thing about inventions. If multiple players build inventions that have effects that affect the other players, you resolve the effects clockwise from yourself. For example, let's say I and 2 of my neighbors chose invent as our actions for the round. And I built the addictive game. My right-hand neighbor built a super android, and my left-hand neighbor built the slime ray. First, I would resolve any effects that are for me alone. In this case, the addictive game means that I would take 4 bags of money from the supply. Then I would go clockwise from myself and resolve the effect of the slime ray, which would cause me to discard one of my blueprints from my hand, and then continue clockwise, and then draw a card from the draw pile. In this way, effects can resolve differently for other players. For example, for myself, I would first discard a card from my hand, and then I would draw one. Whereas a player on the other side of the table from me would first draw a card and then discard a card. Invention effects only happen one time. After you've resolved all of the effects from an invention that you have just built, you can move the invention to the side of your lair. This way, as you build more inventions, you can stack them so that only the victory points are showing, as the effects are no longer important, and you can see at a glance how many victory points you have. In this example, you would have a total of 14 victory points. Then, all the players who chose Research as their action take their turn simultaneously. If you played Research as your action, you would take 2 bags of money from the supply, and you would also draw an invention card from the draw pile. Then, all the players who chose Work as their action take their turn simultaneously. If you played Work as your action, you take 4 bags of money from the supply and put it in your reserve. In the 4th phase, we check to see if a player has won. If one player has 20 or more points and has more points than any other player, he or she wins. If 2 or more players are tied with the most points and they have 20 or more points, or if no one has 20 or more points, then other players simply take their action cards back up and we continue on with the game. In Nefarious, there can only be one winner. I told you we'd come back to the twists. At the beginning of the game, we'll choose 2 twist cards at random and lay them face up in the middle of the table so that everyone can see them. The rest of the twist cards will go back in the box for the duration of the game. Some of the twist cards make the game easier, some of the twist cards make the game more challenging. With 2 twist cards chosen out of the 36, that means there's more than 600 possible combinations of twist cards. We recommend that for your first game, you play with Blood, Sweat, and Mice and Propaganda. Depending on the twists, a game of Nefarious will last between 10 and 30 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@ascoragames.com. We hope you enjoy Nefarious. Good luck taking over the world. If an invention card has 2 effects that affect you, the builder of the invention, you resolve them from top to bottom. For example, if you built the I do know how to say this word.
Genetic manipulator.
Outtake.
If you build the genetic manipulator.
Oh, that's great. Maybe I'm going to do that. If you build an invention that has 2 effects that affect you.
You can't go that loud.
Did you just
I just
snorted?
Yeah, sorry.
Wouldn't it be funny if that included that? Maybe a little snort in the middle of it. Snort.
Well, I was really like the takes that we had where you could hear O'Hare like because he was desperate for us to pack
For attention. Okay.